Hello and welcome back. This is Annie 150, Introduction to 3D Modeling and Game Art, and I'm Jeff Byers, your instructor for this course. This is Module 1, Lecture Video Tutorial, where we will be modeling a low poly and a high poly food can. So let's go ahead and get started. Alright, so I've got Autodesk Maya 2020, and you should have that downloaded as well, and you should have watched all the prep videos moving around and navigating through the Maya interface. So this isn't a video for that, so make sure you watch all the previous videos either from Autodesk or from myself that get you prepped for this assignment. You have to watch those videos so you can feel comfortable with navigating. Okay? Alright, so I'm not going to take you through navigation or show you or take you through how to use the interface in this video, meaning we're going to get right into the assignment. Alright, so make sure you watch those other videos. Those will really help you get started with Maya, and take that time, take a couple hours to get familiar with Maya. Now, some of you have never used a 3D program before, so I would spend a lot more time, maybe the entire day, just kind of moving around and creating little shapes and primitives and stacking those on top of each other and moving around and hitting the space bar. So those are all prep videos for you to watch, and make sure you watch those. Alright, so let's get started. Alright, first thing we're going to do is we've got to create a project. And another thing we need to do is kind of manage ourselves a little bit better to make sure we don't lose things. And the best way to do that is to go ahead and create a project. Okay? So I'm going to show you how to do all that and how all that works. So I'm going to go to File. I'm going to go to Project Window. Okay? And I am going to go in here and I'm going to click on New. Alright, so this is a good time to kind of set up how you're going to do all your projects, because we have 15 modules, and each project or assignment is going to be either part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4. They're going to have different parts. I manage those in a way, and Module 1, we have to get done with Module 1 to be able to move on to Module 2. And so that's how it's going to work. I don't unlock the modules until you're finished with Module 1. Okay? Alright, so what we're going to do now is it's going to be modeling. Okay? So this is going to be Module 1. And we're just going to type in your first name. Okay? Underscore. Okay, do not do spaces, do underscore. Okay, so that's the Shift key and the key right next to the 0 on your keypad. Okay, and that will give you an underscore. Okay, so your first name underscore, last name underscore, module. Okay, 01. Okay, now question is, we've got the name of our module. That's fantastic. Okay, so that's the name of our module. And then underneath is the location. Okay, so what do we do there? Well, right now, I think what the project window or Maya wants to do is it wants to put it in the C drive, Users, Jeff Byers, Documents, Maya, Projects. Now, this is going to be different for you, of course. It'll probably have your name in there. But if it doesn't, don't worry. Okay, so what I'm going to have you do, okay, you got two places that you can store your project folders. Okay, one can be an external drive, okay, which I'm going to show you how to do too, and then the other one can be your hard drive, your C drive. Okay, you have to decide which way you want to go. Okay, it doesn't matter to me. It's purely preference. If you're going to stay at home and you're not going to be going back and forth to school, then I would save it on your hard drive, your C drive at home. If you're going to be going back and forth to school, then I would probably save your projects on your hard drive, your external hard drive. Again, this is a personal preference. Okay, so right now, because I'm assuming you're taking this class online, you're going to be staying home. Okay, all right, no, not going back and forth to school. So we can do that. Let's do that first. So click on the folder, and you'll see this. Okay, so you can also click on My Computer. Okay, desktop, and this is one we want to look for, Documents. Okay, so if you've installed Maya appropriately and placed the software on in the documents, basically let Maya kind of tell you where it wants to go. This is where you're going to find it, in Documents. Okay, so I'm going to click on Documents, all right, and then click on Maya, double click on it, and then I'm going to click on Projects. Okay, now this opens this up. So basically you can see the directory is going to be the C drive, and then users. Well, it might be different for you again, right? Different computer. It's going to be a little different. And documents, and basically everybody should have Documents, Maya, Projects. Okay, if you've done it right, you just click Select. Okay, click on the Select button. Okay, and now you can see that it's taking you to. Now, I don't want it to highlight. I don't want it to do that. I don't want it to put it in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back out, and I'm just going to go as far as, let's go back up, so I can click on this arrow right here. Okay, let's go up a little bit farther. Let's just click and highlight Projects. Okay, and when I click on Select, it's going to put it in that directory there, and that's better. Okay. That way I want it under the Projects directory, and it's going to be named Jeff Byers Module 01. It's going to be your first name and last name. And then you'll have your scenes, and you'll have everything in here. Maya's going to do all the work for you, right? It's going to create all these directories. Okay, you need to have all those. You don't need to have all of them, but we'll talk about them a little bit later. Let's just keep them. It's easier that way. And click Accept. Okay, what did it just do? It really didn't seem like it did anything, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you what's going to happen. Okay, so I've got, oh, this is our food can, by the way. Let's go ahead and minimize that, and okay, let's go back into your C drive, okay, however you want to do that, and your documents. And like I said, it's going to be in your Documents folder. Okay, so click on Documents and click on Maya and click on Projects, and look at that. There's my first module. Now, I think I named it something different. It's Jeff Byers Module 1. I've been doing this quite a bit. So Jeff _ Byers _ Module 1, that's the one I'm working on. And you can see that we have all of those directories that Maya created. Okay, so the Scenes folder is basically going to hold all of our scenes. Now, what is a scene? Well, a scene is what we have here, meaning that I don't really have anything in it, but let's say if I create a sphere and I create a cube, and that's going to be my scene. So if I want to save this scene, right, which I don't want to do, but I'm going to go ahead and show you how this all works. So File, and you're going to click on Save Scene As. The reason why I don't click on just Save Scene is because that can get you in trouble, meaning that it saves over top of what you just created. You don't ever want to do that, okay? Yes, that would save you valuable hard drive space, but as you're learning Maya, you never want to save over top of another project, because if you make a mistake or your scene gets corrupted, you won't be able to go back. Alright? So if I save this in a sequence, okay, I can go back to a previous save if I get in trouble and open that back up and easily continue where I left off. Okay? Let's say Maya crashes and it does not save your scene, or you can't find your scene that when it crashed. You just lost 2 or 3 hours worth of work, let's say. And then you go to, oh, I saved on top of that scene, now I got nothing. Alright, so you want to save scene as. Always save scene as. Okay, and the hotkeys for that is Control plus Shift plus S. So I'm going to click on, okay, And I'm just going to type in something like module 1, right? And let's just say we should probably put our name on everything. So I'm just going to put, instead of writing my whole name, I'm just going to put my first initial, last name, and I'm going to type in MOD, and I'm going to type in 01, and then underscore A. So this is going to be my sequence, okay? So basically, I'm saying Jeff Byers, module 1, this is my first scene, A, and then the next time I save it'll be a B, or a C, D, and continue on, A, B, C, D, and all the way along. Or you can do this. You can do module 1, and you can do something like scene 001. Okay? You can do that. Whatever you're comfortable with. But the idea is that if I make a change, I go ahead and save, right? Save as. And then click continue. Alright? We'll save the scene. Let's say I move this and I build a bunch of stuff on here, and I've done a bunch of really cool stuff in here, and I've worked like hopefully you should save every 5 to 10 minutes. Let's say you make a mistake and you work a lot, but the thing is, the idea is to save scene as, and then what you do, you can see that comes in, okay, or you can just highlight it, and you can just change the number on here to something like 2. Right? There we go. And that's called saving in a sequence. So if I make a mistake, I have a corrupted scene, which happens all the time in Maya, or Maya crashes, I'm protected. Okay, Maya just crashed. What do I do? Okay? Well, I can go in to open my last scene. Okay? So I go to File, Open Scene. You can see that it goes right to my Scenes folder. Okay? Click on that, and I can open it up. And you click on Don't Save. You don't want to save. Continue. There we go. That's where I left off. Let's say this gets corrupted. Okay? I don't want to start from nothing. So if that's corrupted, then I know I can open the scene and go to the earlier save. Because I save in a sequence, I can now go back to my earlier save. I go ahead and open that. And then there. Basically, I don't have to start from scratch. Voila! It's one of those things that you just don't have to worry so much about if you save in a sequence, and you save every 5 to 10 minutes. Now, unfortunately, we forget to save. Okay? So, a lot of times when you're starting out, and even though I've been doing this for a long time, I'll forget to save like after an hour. You should save every 5 to 10 minutes. And you know what? A lot of times you should, as a beginner, maybe get a little clock, or maybe use your phone. Get one of those timers, and after have an alarm set every 10 to 15 minutes. Have it set up to give you kind of a little reminder to save your work. Okay? All right. That's what I would recommend when you're starting out. Okay. So this is basically going to be the first video, just showing you how to set up your project. And the next thing we're going to do is we need to place all of the right images into the right folders. Okay, you got a little preview of what we're going to be doing. So this is basically where our scenes go. And let's go click on that arrow, go up, and all our textures go in the source images. Okay. Now the reason why I'm telling you this is because we're not putting our textures anywhere else except for the source images. So our scenes go in the scenes folder. Our textures go into the source images folder. Our references go in there, our textures, and anything else that you want to actually reference will go into the source images. Okay, so I've got a couple things in here. So let me move that to the side. And in my lesson folder, I'm going to give you these images, okay? But what I want to do is I want to copy the images that I'm going to use for this project or this assignment. Okay, so I'm going to click on one, I'm going to hold the control key down and click on the other ones that I need to have, and I'm going to copy those. I'm going to right click over them, I'm going to copy those, and I'm going to move them. Okay, copy, and I'm going to open up the source images folder, okay, just like this, and right click and go to paste. Okay, So now I've got all of my labels. I'll probably have more and probably digitize my own. And you can do the same. So we're going to do a food can. And I want you to kind of look ahead. And I want you to find a food can. And the label has to be a high resolution. Okay? Right? You can see that when I right click over an object and right mouse button click over it and go to properties, you can see in details how big it is. Okay? If it is under 1,000 pixels, okay, this is 1600, so I'm good. So look at the image. If it's under 1,000 pixels, you can't use it. Okay? All right? It will look really bad. Okay, so let's look at all the ones that I'm going to give you, and that we cannot use. It's just under 1,000. You know, you might be able to get away with it, but it's probably something you don't want to do. And which one is that? It's the one we're going to use as a reference. Now, the one we're going to use as a reference, not as a texture, I think we're okay with. Okay, I think that's good enough. All right. But the labels, they have to have a higher resolution because we're actually using that image on as a texture. The food can we can probably get away with, which we will, but the labels and textures we can't. So let's take a look at this label here and look at the properties of that and details, and that falls within the resolution that we want, 1200 pixels. And let's look at this one right here, and this one's pretty big. I remember, yeah, that's really huge, 3154. So when you're looking and finding stuff on the internet, it may look bigger than you think it is, but what you want to do is you want to right click over, go to properties, go to details, and you'll find out what size it is. Okay, that's a fast way of doing it. All right, so now we got our textures in our source images. What do we do now? Well, what we can do now is we're going to close that all out. Let's go back into Maya. Okay, now we're all ready. Okay, to open up our reference file. So in our panel, our perspective panel viewport, we're going to click, we probably don't want to put it in the perspective view panel. You guys could, if you want to, add it on there too, but as well. But we're going to go to the front view. Okay, and what we're going to do is we're going to bring in our reference image. We always want to use a reference image no matter what we're creating. Because we want to get the size and proportions correct. So let's go to File, or excuse me, View, and go to Image Plane, Import Image. Right? So now the cool thing is, if you've got your project all created and you saved your project and you did everything right, you should this should open up your source images folder automatically. This kind of proves my point that Maya wants to search in the source images folder for all your textures and your references. So we're going to click on Food Can. This is a zip folder. These are all going to be on a zip folder, and more materials I'm sure I'm going to add as we move forward when you guys come into class. So you're going to see a lot more, and you can add those on there into your source images folder for this module 1. So when you add those, I want you to click on the food can. We're going to model that first. Okay, so we're going to click on that. You can see that gets into the viewport. I'm just moving my mouse button forward and back. I can zoom in and out. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to get that positioned. So I'm going to hit the W key and just move that up. And I'm going to move it so it's in perspective, so it makes it a little bit more difficult to model. But the thing is, I'm used to modeling this way, so it's going to be fine. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to move that down. Okay. A lot of times you're not going to be able to get a perfect side view of a reference unless you take a picture of it, right? You know, get a digital camera or use your phone and take a picture of it from the side view. You're still going to get distortion. Okay, you can't get rid of that. So I don't mind using a perspective or even a distorted image because I can still extrapolate any information as far as shape and size I can get out of this reference. Okay, so with that done, I'm going to hit the space bar, go back into my perspective view, and you can see that this is what we have. Right? And as you guys know, if I rotate around to the front, now the front is basically plus Z, okay, Z-axis. If I rotate around, you can see at the very bottom left-hand corner, you can see that I've got my axes here, and when I hold down the Alt key and my left mouse button and rotate around, you can see that axis is rotating, right? So how do I know plus Z is this way? Because it is facing this way. Plus Z is always facing you if you're looking at the Z, the blue position of that Z is going to be plus. Anything behind is negative, okay? So if I move this, this will be positive. So I'm going to do Control A. I'm going to do Control A again. And this is our channel editor. So if I move that forward, okay, it's going to be in the plus value. Okay? Alright? So I'm going to Control Z that back. I'm going to click on that and just move that back. And what I want to do is I want to move this back so I can give a place where I'm actually going to create my can. Okay? So if I create a cylinder, if I move this back, if I create a cylinder, you can see that it won't get in the way. If I would have left that there, you know, it would have got in the way. Okay? So we're going to move that back. Now, let's say you make a mistake and you can't select it anymore. Some of us will have issues with that. It's okay. It's not a real problem, because I'm going to show you another way to select that object. Okay? This is called an image. Okay? An image plane. Right? Now, Mike created it so it's fixed in the front view. Okay? We don't have it in any other view. We can see that plane's there, but we can't really see it. Right? We can see it in perspective view, which is good. Okay? That's kind of nice. So if we're modeling, we want to kind of check and see how we're doing. That's good. That's good to have it and good to be able to see it. But what if you can't move it again? What if you can't select it for some reason? Okay? So what you want to do is you want to go up to the main menu bar and go to Windows and then go down to Outliner. Okay? It's best to find out some of these windows right away. I'm going to go ahead and move this from the corner up a little bit. Okay? And just move that down a little bit. Basically, what the outliner does is it shows you everything that you've created in your scene, which is really nice. So if I can't select something this way, right, I can select it this way. I can go into the outliner and select the image this way. Okay? That's nice to know. Okay? Again, it's under Windows and Outliner. And this is something you're going to see me go and actually open up from time to time. And you're probably wondering how I'm doing that. Well, just remember this video and come back to this video if you need help with that, because I'm not going to probably set and explain everything every time when I'm working. So the outliner is something that I'm showing you now that you guys can use to select objects in your scene. And it will even show lights. If I create a light, so if I go to create lights, create like a directional light, notice that that shows up in here. It shows everything that's in your scene, which is really nice. Now I don't want that in here, so I want to delete that. But you can see that, and you can actually rename things too if you want to. You can double click on that and rename it. So let's call this food can, right? Underscore can. Remember, don't use spaces. It will cause an error in Maya and you'll wonder what happened. So just do an underscore and then click on enter. And you can see that I can rename that. I can even rename that guy right there, my food plane, or my image plane. I can call that food can. Image. There we go. Alright, cool. Alright, so I do underscores underneath. Keep it from having a issue. It will give you a syntax error if you do that, if you have a space there. I always use underscores, or just one word. You could do this too. I can double click on that and get rid of that, and just it could be one word, food can, and that's perfectly fine. Okay, if you want to do that. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. And so we got our food image, and this is how you can select things. So you can move it back now if you were having problems before. Okay, now let's talk about getting your so we got our food can ready. Let's go ahead and close this now. And we've got our image plane, our reference. So now we have all the ingredients to get started. The only thing we want to do now is we want to add these objects to layers. Okay. So if you don't see your channel editor here or your layer editor here, then this is how you do it. You can do the control, hold down the control key and the A key. Okay. And if you don't see it still, do control A again, and then you should see it. So basically you're cycling, when you do control A, you're cycling between the attribute editor, which is this, okay, and the channel editor, which is this. So it depends on what object you're on. So this is a plane, it's going to look different. So if I do control A, you can see that this is the attributes for this particular object. Okay? Alright? So you can mess around with those. I wouldn't right now, because I'm not going to go in depth with that. And then we're going to click on our food can, alright, which gives us a different attribute editor. Okay? Alright? Okay, so just understand this is the attribute editor for this object, and then the channel editor for this object is control A, and this is what it looks like, channels. You can see that, channels. And you can see that when we move that object forward and back, it changes in the translate X or Z, or excuse me, Z value. If I go forward, it's plus. If I go backwards, it's negative, like we were talking about. Okay. All right. So we've got. We'll just go ahead and put that back in there. I'm just going to click on it, highlight it, and hit the 0. Okay. So not only can you move an object with the arrows, but you can move an object by just typing in whatever numeric value you would like. So if I go +5, it'll go up. Okay, and if I do 5 on the Z, or the X, or excuse me, Z, it'll go forward. So I went 5 units up and 5 units forward. And what is a unit? Well, it's that grid you see right here. So one grid mark is 1 unit. Okay, so hopefully that's helpful. I'm going to go ahead and click on that and hit the 0 key, and then the 0 key on this. Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and bring that object up, but what we want to do is I've kind of worked my way around to the fact that we need to get layers started, okay, before we even get to modeling. So what I want to do is I want to select the image plane. If you can't select it, again, go to Windows and Outliner, and you can select it this way. Okay. Either way, go ahead and select it. And what I want to do is make sure it's selected and click on this icon right here. What that icon is it basically takes that object and puts it into a new layer all in one time. So I'm going to click on that, and so it just added that object into that layer. Okay. Now if I don't do that, if I just click on a layer, then I would have to add it after the fact. Okay, if I have it selected and if I click on this guy right here, it will add the object to the layer for you automatically. So to prove that, I'm going to click on the V, which is visible. Okay, click on it, it will turn the visibility off. You can see this can play havoc with you new guys that are just learning something new, and you turn that off and you save your file and you open it back up and you're like, where did my object go? It's not there anymore. So you forgot about it. So be very careful when you're doing layers that you remember that you could have something in there. That's why we want to rename these things. So let's go ahead and double click on the layer, and let's go ahead and rename that food can, and just call it BG, background. Okay, and hit the save key. And then you can see that it changes for you, food can, background. So let me talk about this real quick. So we've got the visibility, which we talked about. This is basically preview, we'll just keep that on. And then you've got T for template, which just gives you kind of a wireframe. Okay. And then we've got R for reference, and that's what we want, R for reference. That basically means it's referencing the object. You cannot select it. Again, this can get you into trouble because if you click on that and forget about it, and you're new at this, and it's easy to do. Obviously, when you're learning something, you forget you did something, or you're not quite sure how it works. But reference basically means you can't select it. So if you forget about that you referenced it, and you're like, how do I move it? And I'm clicking on it here, and it doesn't like highlight it or gray it out or anything. It still lets you select it even in reference mode, which is really great. Okay? Okay, so just remember that. It's kind of nice if you have your outliner open. It will let you select it even if reference is on. Okay? So, anyway, with that said, we want reference on because when I'm modeling, I don't want to keep selecting that by accident. Okay? Because I love to marquee select my stuff. Basically, I'm left mouse button moving my mouse at the same time. That's when I am marquee selecting. And when I do that, it sometimes selects both of those at the same time by accident. And if that happens, that can be really frustrating and irritating. So that's why I keep reference on the layer. Well, we're ready to start modeling. So I'm sorry, I apologize for the long video. I usually like to try to keep it to at least 10 to 15 minutes for each video, but this one got into the 30-minute or so. So I apologize for that, but we'll see you in part 2, and we'll get modeling the low poly model. Alright, I'll see you then.